Hi, the introverted cynist here. Today, I am going to explain a 2019 English drama film called The Mustang. Warning, spoilers ahead. Kick back and take care. Due to overpopulation, limited resources, and privatization of public lands, over 100,000 wild mustangs, which is a symbol of the American West, still wander across the United States. They are presently on the verge of extinction. The federal government responds by rounding up thousands of mustangs each year to aid in population management. The majority of them are held in long-term holding facilities for the rest of their lives, while others are unfortunately euthanized. Helicopters are used to navigate the mustangs to the container boxes from where they used to have freedom to the prison. In the present, we meet Roman Coleman, who has been incarcerated for 12 years for leaving his wife permanently brain damaged in an attack due to his short temper and violent tendencies. He also has a daughter, Martha, who he has never seen in 12 years. Due to his behavior, he does not prefer interacting with other inmates and has been put in solitary confinement his whole life. But after meeting a psychologist, she advises that he needs to interact with people and have control of his life. So, the guards now put him with another inmate in a cell. As usual, he doesn't make any contact with him and minds his own business. According to the psychologist's recommendation, he gets placed into the outdoor maintenance program for horses so that he'll get an opportunity to reflect on himself. He now visits the yard where the horses are kept and gets instructed to pick up feces. While working, he notices banging sounds coming from a barn and ignores it. Next day, he again listens to the banging sound and decides to check it out. After curiously looking inside, he finds a magnificent and a beautiful wild mustang. Being violent, he feels like he shouldn't intervene, but after looking at its eyes, he feels that it's sad and angry, like he was years ago, and he gets inside. Suddenly, the rancher, Miles, now chastises him for opening the door and informs him that it's a dangerous animal and informs him to leave. Later, he has a visitor who happens to be his daughter. After getting seated, Martha, who is visibly pregnant, hands her emancipation papers for him to sign. She now informs him that she wants to go away with her boyfriend and wants to sell her grandmother's home to live a better life with her baby. Roman does not sign it and say that the home belongs to both of them. She now condescendingly asks him on whether he knows how to raise a baby, indicating that he was an absent father when Martha grew up and it was her sole responsibility as a child to look after her brain-damaged mother, and this aggravated him to lambast at her. Afterwards, he now witnesses a couple of inmates who are in a rehabilitation program for training horses for an auction release the wild mustang from his cage. The horse now becomes violent and untamable. The rancher now approaches Roman and somewhere feels like he wants to train horses and orders him to join the program. Miles now instructs Henry, who is an amazing horse trainer, to train Roman. Even though Roman tried to back off, he had no option but to listen. Next morning, after handing him a pair of boots, Henry now gets inside with a stick and teaches him how it's done. He says that we should always have control with the hand and body and instructs him that we always need to be in the center and direct the horse with the stick to make him move around and keep as much space with him and must respect their space as well so that you can establish a connection. After handing him the stick, Roman now struggles to maintain the connection. Henry now tells him to raise his hands to respect a boundary and instructs him to back off. After nothing worked, Roman with his mighty voice yells at the horse, scaring him. Even though unconventional, Henry lets it slide and congratulates Roman for his effort. After a few days, the rancher and the other inmates in the program now awaits Roman's performance with horses. But things don't go well. The horse becomes fierce and hysterical and knocks Roman down. Roman, now pissed off, retaliates by ruthlessly punching him to fear Roman. But he gets knocked down again and is placed under arrest. Meanwhile, the horse is now tranquilized by the inmates. The rancher, now exasperated, warns Roman that he doesn't want to see his face ever again. Roman, now on the ground, observes the horse and feels disappointed that he shouldn't have put his hand on an animal. Communication for goods are passed on from cell to cell through strings and notes attached to it. One day, Roman, now in solitary confinement, gets a note on whether he needs anything. He says that he needs a magazine about horses, and the next day he starts learning about the history of horses to make him more absorbed into horse riding and gets fascinated by the name Marcus. Due to a heavy sandstorm approaching outside, the guards now recruit Roman to take the horses to a secure location inside the prison. Fortunately, he meets the same Mustang he punched before and tries to connect with it. Hesitant at first, the horse now allows Roman to tie a rope on its neck and he slowly escorts it outside. The prisoners now take all the horses to the shower area inside. The sandstorm was considerably massive enough that it knocked out the electricity and made considerable damage to the fences outside and also made all the horses panic all night. Next day, the horses are now given medicines due to the trauma they received and they are now taken care of. Due to Roman's gesture of taking care of the horses and being with them, the rancher now rehires him to the program by giving him a uniform. He also warns him never to physically hurt a horse again or else he'll be in 10 years in a psychiatric ward. He then notifies that he has only 4 weeks to train the horse to auction them off. Later, Roman sees his horse again and tries to feed it to make a connection once more, but to no avail. Henry now joins and informs him to be patient with them and advises that if the ears of the horses are behind, it's sad, and if it's in forward, they are happy, and right now, he isn't happy. Henry now informs Roman to name the horse for a better connection. After much thought, Roman now calls it Marcus after reading from the magazine. After calling him the name, the horse started manifesting positive vibes. Later, Roman, now alone with Marcus, starts using neighing and snorting sounds to get its attention, but that doesn't make much difference. After several tries, using his body and arms to control the horse, he fails and becomes bitter and exhausted. He now shouts at him, saying that he is trying to protect him and not hurt him. While resting, Marcus now comes near Roman and starts rubbing his face on him. Roman becomes euphoric, making tears well up his eyes. Roman feels that, even though he hasn't made a connection with his daughter all these years, he has made a connection with something similar. Later that night, he writes a letter to Martha for the first time to see him. Next morning, he finds it challenging to get on Marcus and write it. Finally, he gets on and starts listening to the rancher's advice and gets in sync with Marcus. Eventually, he makes progress writing Marcus perfectly. At the prison, Roman gets congratulated by the other inmates for his effort. After several days of training, Roman starts to become soft and mellow, interacting with Marcus and other people. He now meets Martha and tries to converse with her about him training with horses and requests her to come for the auction next week, but she could not care less. Roman breaks down and mournfully confesses what actually happened that day was a mistake and he was not thinking straight due to him being on drugs. He now wistfully says that he will one day make it up to her and will always love her. Martha becomes emotional and leaves without saying anything. The following scene, the inmates now have a blissful experience riding the horses in a deserted vast land. At the end, the rancher now advises to the riders that all these horses are being auctioned off to protect the US border, so they need to be used to racing and pursuing, and the team disperse. At the day of the auction, the event is festive with loud American songs and flags being hoisted by the riders. Roman, while feeding Marcus, casually asks whether Martha would be present in the audience. The rancher now appreciates and greets the audience for coming and now welcomes the riders with their horses and line up. While playing the national anthem, some of the horses, including Marcus, started being uncomfortable listening to it, but becomes tolerable after the song. While showcasing the horses to the crowd and auctioning them off, it becomes challenging for one of the inmates to let go off his horse after spending so much time with it, and he heartbreakingly bids his horse farewell. It is now Marcus's turn, and Marcus started throwing tantrums while entering the field, making everyone shock, but Roman now calms him and balances him, making everyone clap and cheer. While looking in the crowd for Martha, suddenly a helicopter passes above them, making Marcus rebellious and out of control. The helicopter reminded the haunting experience of how he was captured by the police, and he accidentally drags Roman on the ground. Everyone in the audience now witnesses this in horror. Roman, now standing, gets attacked and injured by Marcus, and later he gets tranquilized. After receiving medical care, Roman now meets the rancher. The rancher now informs him sadly that they're shutting down the program. Roman apologizes, but gets shocked hearing that Marcus is going to get euthanized for the fiasco that happened earlier. The rancher says that he is helpless and reveals that, out of 42 years of his experience, there are some horses that you can break and some you cannot. Miles now slyly informs Roman the pathetic way the guards use adhesive tape to fix the fence that was damaged due to the storm and slowly steps outside to see the guard. Not sure if Miles was giving him a hint, nevertheless, Roman now escapes from the office and visits Marcus at the barn and apologetically embraces him. He now secretly takes him outside and kicks the damaged fence and makes way for Marcus to escape. Marcus tries not to leave, but Roman now persistently informs him to escape and sadly pushes him away. The guards now arrive at the scene and arrest Roman. Sometime later, Roman, now in solitary confinement, receives a letter from Martha informing that she has forgiven him and will next time bring his grandson, Martin, with her. Roman's eyes now filled with tears of joy as he finishes reading the letter, now sees Marcus waiting by the jail gates for him, concluding the movie. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more videos.